My name is Linda Parker. I'm 52 years old, and for the past year, I've been living back in my childhood home with my dad, mom, and younger brother. It wasn't my first choice, but after my divorce, I needed a place to land, and they promised it would feel like family again. Last Friday, at exactly 3:17 in the afternoon, my life tipped sideways. I was in the laundry room, pulling warm towels from the dryer, when a sharp, blinding pain ripped through my lower side. It wasn't the kind of ache you rub away. It was deep, like something inside me had torn. I froze, one hand gripping the dryer door, the other pressed against my ribs. Dad's voice came from the kitchen. "What's taking so long, Linda? It's just laundry, not surgery." I tried to call back, but my breath caught halfway. The pain didn't ease. It spread, radiating into my back like hot wires. I stumbled into the kitchen, clutching the counter. "Something's wrong," I said quietly. "I think." Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. "It's probably something you ate. Sit down, drink some water." My brother, Jason, was leaning against the fridge, scrolling his phone. He snorted. "Oh, here we go again. Remember last Christmas when you swore you were having a heart attack and it was just gas?" The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I'd heard versions of them my whole life. When I was 10, I fainted during a school play. Mom told everyone I was just being dramatic. At 16, I limped home from soccer practice with a sprained ankle, and Dad said I was walking funny for sympathy. Now, decades later, nothing had changed. "Jason," Mom's voice floated from the dining room, "stop teasing your sister." But her tone was flat, almost bored. I turned toward her, hoping for concern, but she was arranging flowers in a vase, not even glancing my way. "You do work yourself up sometimes, Linda," she said gently. "Maybe just lie down for a bit." Lie down. That was their answer to everything. But lying down didn't help last night when a dull ache had kept me awake. And it wasn't helping now as my hands trembled against the counter. I excused myself and shuffled toward my room. Halfway down the hallway, another wave hit, stronger. My knees buckled, and I caught myself against the wall. A framed photo rattled, nearly falling. I thought about calling my friend Sheila. She's the kind of person who'd drive over in a heartbeat. But I could already hear Dad's voice, dragging outsiders into family business again. The hours crawled by. The pain didn't fade. It grew bolder, creeping up my side and into my shoulder. Every time I shifted in bed, it flared, making me gasp. Around 7 p.m., Jason knocked on my door. "You coming to dinner, or should we bring it to you, princess?" I wanted to yell, but my voice came out thin. "I'm not hungry." "Of course you're not," he muttered, walking away. That had ruined the performance. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, memories flickering like old film reels. Every time my pain had been dismissed, every time my feelings had been reduced to a joke. It wasn't just about this moment, it was years of being unseen, unheard. Later that night, I woke to the sound of laughter from the living room. My family was watching a comedy show, their voices blending with the TV. I thought about joining them, if only to feel less alone, but the idea of dragging myself out there, only to be met with smirks, kept me in bed. By midnight, the pain sharpened, like someone twisting a knife in slow cycles. I curled up, pressing a pillow to my side. Sweat dampened my hairline. At 2 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I padded to the kitchen for water. The house was dark, except for the glow of Dad's phone on the counter. He'd left it charging. A text popped up on the screen. "Jason, she's milking it. Bet she's fine by tomorrow." I froze. The ache in my chest had nothing to do with my side. It was a deep, familiar kind of hurt. I went back to my room without drinking the water. My throat was dry, my body heavy, but I couldn't sleep. Every minute felt like an hour. My mind wandered to the ER visit I'd made 2 years ago when I thought I had pneumonia. Turned out I did. The doctor said if I'd waited another day, my lungs could have collapsed. And still, my family had complained about the drama of it all. By 5 a.m., the pain had settled into a constant, grinding presence. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the first birds outside. My hands were cold, my breathing shallow. When Mom peeked in at 7, she smiled politely. "Morning, dear. Feeling better?" I just looked at her. She tilted her head, waiting for an answer. "No," I said simply. Her smile faded slightly, but she didn't step closer. "Well, try not to overdo it today." As she left, I thought about how strange it was that you could be surrounded by family and still feel like you were stranded on an island. That Friday wasn't the day I decided to change everything. Not yet. But it was the day the seed was planted. The day I realized they weren't going to save me, believe me, or even stand beside me. If I wanted help, I'd have to find it myself. And that quiet, devastating truth was the beginning of everything that came next. The smell of sizzling bacon fills the kitchen, the kind of smell that usually means comfort. But today, it hits my stomach like a lead weight. I step toward the counter, meaning to help Mom slice tomatoes for the breakfast table. My fingers barely curl around the knife before a sharp, twisting pain shoots through my side. It's sudden, fierce, like someone's driving a nail into me from the inside. My body folds before I can stop it, my hand clutching the edge of the counter to keep from collapsing. "What now?" Dad's voice slices through the clatter of pans. He doesn't even look at me, just keeps turning the bacon with that quick, irritated flick of his wrist. "If you're going to stand there doubled over, go sit down. You're ruining breakfast." The words sting worse than the pain. My cheeks heat, but I straighten as much as I can. I start, but he waves me off like I'm some buzzing fly. "Go. Please," he mutters, though the please isn't kindness, it's dismissal. Before I can move, my brother Jake strolls in, a football tucked under one arm. He's got that lazy grin he uses when he knows he's about to get a laugh out of someone. Behind him, his friend Kyle is already smirking. "Whoa, what happened to you?" Jake says, glancing at my hunched posture. "You look like Grandma when she forgets her back brace." Kyle chuckles, trying to hold it in, but failing. Jake leans on the fridge, enjoying his own joke. I force a thin smile, because I've learned that not reacting is safer than feeding him material. Mom is at the sink, rinsing dishes, her shoulders stiff. She doesn't turn around, doesn't say, "That's enough," or "Leave your sister alone." Just rinses, stacks, repeats, like she's on autopilot. I want to disappear. After a few moments, I leave the kitchen quietly, pretending I have something urgent to do in the other room. My body feels heavy, the pain radiating from my side into my lower back. I sink into the couch, staring at the sunlight filtering through the blinds. Maybe I should call the doctor myself. The thought is tempting, but the memory of the last time I tried comes rushing back. Dad standing in the doorway, arms crossed, telling me I'd wasted everyone's time because the test results were fine. His words had stayed with me, clinging like wet clothes. By mid-morning, we all piled into the car for the farmer's market. It's supposed to be family time, but it feels more like a silent truce. I sit in the back seat, careful not to shift too much. Every bump in the road sends a dull ache spreading through my legs. Jake and Kyle are in the third row, swapping inside jokes that I'm not meant to understand. Every so often, I catch the sound of muffled laughter, and my name slips between their words like a jab I can't quite dodge. Mom stares out the window, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Dad hums along to an old rock song, tapping the steering wheel like he's the only one enjoying the ride. At the market, I try to keep up, but the uneven pavement makes each step a challenge. The smells, fresh bread, coffee, fried dough, are almost too much. My body is screaming for me to sit, but I push on, not wanting to give anyone another reason to roll their eyes. Halfway through, Jake tosses me a bag of apples to carry. It's heavier than it looks, and the weight pulls at my side. I grip it with both hands, trying not to wince. "You okay there?" Kyle says, with a tone that's halfway between teasing and genuine curiosity. She's fine. Jake answers for me, giving Kyle a knowing look. She's just dramatic. I keep my eyes on the ground. If I say anything, it'll turn into a performance for their amusement. We stop by a stall selling honey, and while Dad chats with the vendor, I find a bench nearby. Sitting down feels like relief and failure all at once. A little girl nearby is laughing, sticky with cotton candy, and for a moment I remember being her age, how simple things used to be before every move I made was questioned or mocked. When we finally head home, I retreat to my room. The afternoon light is warm, almost comforting, but I can't settle. The pain is worse now, creeping into places it hadn't before. I lie on my side, eyes closed, trying to breathe through it. Dinner is quieter than breakfast, but the silence isn't peaceful. It's loaded, like everyone is keeping score in their own heads. Dad eats quickly. Jake scrolls through his phone. Mom keeps glancing at the clock. Afterward, I clear my plate and head toward the hallway, but something in the living room catches my eye. Voices, low at first, then clearer. She's faking it, Dad says, his voice sharp. Every time there's something to do, suddenly she's got some new ache or pain. My stomach knots. She just wants attention, Mom replies, softer but firm. If we keep feeding into it, it'll never stop. Jake's laugh follows, short and smug. Told you. Drama. The words feel like a shove. I back away before they notice I'm there, my bare feet silent on the carpet. In my room, I sit on the bed, staring at the wall. Their voices echo in my head, over and over, until they don't sound like theirs anymore. They sound like my own. That night, I don't sleep much. The pain is there, steady and real, but the weight of their doubt presses harder. Somewhere deep down, I know this is more than drama. But right now, the people who should believe me the most are the ones tearing my story apart before I can even tell it. The sunlight is blinding, the kind of harsh afternoon glare that makes the grass look too green and the air feel thicker than it should. I stand by the folding chairs, gripping the back of one for balance, my knuckles pale from the pressure. Every movement sends a sharp bolt of pain through my side, but I keep going, because slowing down would mean inviting comments I'm not ready to hear. The yard smells of charcoal and sizzling meat. Somewhere behind me, a radio plays an old country song, the kind Dad likes to hum along to. Laughter drifts from the patio, the easy, casual kind that belongs to people who don't have to think about how much standing will cost them later. I drag the last chair into place and straighten up, but the world tilts, just slightly, enough to make me blink hard. Heat presses against my skin like a heavy blanket. By the time I hear my name, it's too late. My knees buckle, the grass rushing up faster than I can brace myself. The impact isn't loud, but it feels like every eye turns in my direction. I'm on my side, the blades of grass tickling my cheek, my chest tight as I gasp for air that doesn't seem to want to come. From somewhere above, Dad's voice floats down, low but sharp. Here we go again. It's the same tone he uses when the car won't start or when the mailman delivers a bill early. Inconvenience, not concern. A shadow passes over me. My brother is leaning toward a guest, his hand half covering his mouth. I can't catch every word, but I hear just enough to make my stomach turn. The guest chuckles, trying not to look in my direction. I want to tell them this isn't a performance, that the ache in my ribs, the pounding in my head, the way my lungs bane, it's all real. But the words get lost somewhere between my mind and my lips. Suddenly, a different voice cuts through. She needs help, the neighbor from 2 doors down says, her tone firm enough to hush the background chatter. I barely know her. Her name might be Karen or Carolyn, but her shadow kneels beside me. Sweetheart, can you hear me? You're white as a sheet. I try to answer, but the sound comes out thin, like air escaping a balloon. She's fine, Dad says from behind her. She does this. She'll be up in a minute. The neighbor ignores him, glancing toward someone else. Call an ambulance, she says, and for a moment I feel a flicker of hope. But Mom's voice slices in. No, that's not necessary. She just gets overheated. She's fine. Her words are softer than Dad's, but final, the way someone might talk about a kid who's faking sick to skip school. The air feels hotter now, like I'm lying too close to a campfire. My vision is tunneling, narrowing until the only clear thing is the neighbor's face, her brow furrowed. I'm not fine, I try to say, but my tongue feels heavy, my lips barely moving. Around us, the barbecue keeps going. Somewhere to my left, someone opens a soda can, the fizz loud in my ears. Kids are running past, laughing, their sneakers pounding against the patio stones. The smell of burgers makes my stomach twist. The neighbor presses a cool hand to my forehead. She's burning up, she mutters, mostly to herself. Just let her rest, Mom replies, her tone so calm it almost convinces me I'm imagining all of this. Then the pain sharpens, like a string being pulled tight from my ribs to my spine. My breath catches, and the edges of the world go soft, hazy. I hear Dad chuckle at something someone says, the sound detached from me entirely. The neighbor's hand squeezes mine. Stay with me, she says. Her voice is urgent now. Keep your eyes open. But my eyelids feel impossibly heavy. The sounds around me start to distort, too loud, then muffled, then far away. Somewhere above it all, Mom's voice floats down, clear and casual. She'll get up in a minute. And then, nothing. When awareness drips back in, it's not all at once. First, it's the sound of voices, distant and layered. Then, the sensation of grass under my palms. My eyes open to slivers of sunlight cutting through the leaves overhead. I'm still in the yard, though now I'm lying on a blanket I don't remember anyone placing under me. The neighbor is beside me, her phone in her lap. She notices I'm awake and leans closer. There you are, she says, relief softening her features. My throat is dry, my voice little more than a whisper. How long? About 10 minutes, she says, and her eyes flick toward the patio where Dad is flipping burgers as if nothing happened. Mom is at the table, arranging condiments with careful precision. Nobody else seems to notice I'm awake. They didn't want me to call anyone, the neighbor says quietly. Said it happens all the time. Her gaze holds mine, like she's trying to figure out if that's true. I manage a small shake of my head, and something in her expression hardens. Drink this, she says, handing me a plastic cup of water. I sip slowly, the coolness soothing against the dryness in my mouth. Behind us, Jake laughs loudly at something, and I catch the tail end of his sentence, like she just wanted to make it about her. His friend snorts in agreement. The neighbor's jaw tightens. She starts to say something, but stops, glancing between me and the group. You want to go inside? She asks instead. I nod. The movement sends a dull throb through my side, but I push myself up with her help. My legs feel unsteady, like they might fold again if I move too fast. As we pass the grill, Dad glances up briefly. See? She's fine, he says to no one in particular. The neighbor doesn't reply. Her grip on my arm stays firm until we're inside, away from the heat and the eyes. She sits me down at the kitchen table, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly the loudest sound in the room. I stare at my hands, noticing the faint tremor in my fingers. Outside, the laughter and clinking plates continue, muffled now by the closed door. The neighbor crouches so we're at eye level. You sure you're okay? She asks. But the question isn't casual. It's weighted, deliberate. I want to tell her everything. The pain, the dismissals, the way each episode feels worse than the last. But the words stick, tangled with years of not being believed. So I just nod. She doesn't look convinced, but she doesn't press. Instead, she stands, pours me another glass of water, and says, You don't have to go back out there until you're ready. I hold the cup, feeling the condensation dampen my palm, and for the first time all afternoon, I let myself breathe without worrying who's watching. I wake up to the muted hum of tires over asphalt and the faint chemical sting of antiseptic. The ambulance ceiling swims above me, a rectangle of cold, sterile light cutting into my eyes. A paramedic hovers in my peripheral vision, leaning close enough for me to catch the smell of coffee on his breath. "Can you tell me your name?" he asks, his tone calm but edged with a seriousness that makes my pulse spike. I blink, my throat dry. Lena. My voice comes out as little more than a croak. He nods, scribbling something on a clipboard before shining a pen light into my eyes. "Good. Do you know what day it is?" I try to think, but the edges of my memory feel blurred, slippery. "Sunday." "That's right," he says, but I catch the quick glance he shares with the other paramedic near the foot of the stretcher. It's the kind of look people give when they are trying not to alarm someone. The siren isn't on, but the urgency in the way they move tells me it doesn't need to be. My body feels strange, not just the stabbing pain in my abdomen, but a heavy, full body ache, as though I'm being pulled down into the stretcher. I want to ask what's wrong, but my lips barely part before the world tilts again. By the time the fluorescent lights of the ER ceiling replace the ambulance interior, I'm shivering. My stretcher rolls past curtain bays and the faint sound of someone sobbing in the distance. A doctor with wire-rimmed glasses and a quick, efficient walk steps up beside me. "We're going to run some tests," he says, already flipping through my chart. "You said the pain's been going on for how long?" I hesitate, glancing toward the doorway where my parents stand. My father's arms are crossed, jaw set in that familiar look of impatience. My mother studies the floor. "A while," I finally say. The doctor hums under his breath, clearly dissatisfied with the vagueness, and turns to a nurse. "Let's order an MRI. Symptoms don't match just a stomachache." His voice lowers slightly as he walks toward the hall, but I still catch the words, "possible internal complications." A prickling runs up my spine. I know doctors don't say things like that unless they mean it. The nurse wheels me into a room chilled enough that I instinctively curl my toes under the thin blanket. The MRI machine looms like some massive, humming beast. The tech explains the process, her voice gentle but businesslike, and slides me inside. The clanging begins, loud, repetitive, like the inside of a factory, and I stare at the narrow strip of ceiling above me. My mind drifts to every time I'd thought about seeing a doctor sooner, every time I'd been told I was overreacting, and the frustration burns in my chest. When the scan ends, they wheel me back into a curtained bay. I hear the doctor's voice again, this time outside my thin fabric wall. "Her vitals are concerning," he tells the medic. My stomach knots tighter. The word concerning is never good. Minutes stretch into an eternity before the doctor returns, holding a set of images in his hand. He doesn't meet my eyes at first. Instead, he glances at my parents, jerking his head toward the hallway. "I think we should talk outside," he says. Something in his tone makes my skin prickle. My father frowns but follows, my mother trailing behind. I strain to hear, but their voices drop as soon as they step out. Still, one phrase slices through the muffled background noise like a blade. "You need to call a lawyer." A hollow thud echoes in my ears, and for a moment, I think it's my own heartbeat. My mind races. Why would a doctor say something like that? The curtain parts, and the doctor steps back in alone. His face is carefully neutral, but his eyes are too steady, too focused on mine. "You have an internal condition that should have been treated weeks ago," he says. His voice is calm, but the weight in it is undeniable. The delay in treatment has caused complications. My mouth goes dry. "Complications?" He nods. "We'll need to admit you immediately. You're at risk for..." He stops himself, searching for a gentler word. "Further damage." My parents reappear at the foot of the bed. My father's jaw is tight, but his face is pale. My mother won't meet my gaze. I can't tell if the rush of heat in my chest is fear or anger. Weeks ago, that means every single time I'd been brushed off, every time I'd been told I was fine, every argument I'd swallowed, it all mattered more than I dared believe. The nurse begins adjusting my fall, and the sharp smell of antiseptic fills the air. "We'll get you upstairs shortly," she says softly. In the hall, I hear my father's voice, low and strained. "This can't be right. She's young, healthy." The doctor's reply is muffled, but I catch fragments. "Tests don't lie. Shouldn't have waited, and could have been fatal." I stare at the ceiling tiles, counting each one to keep from unraveling. But the truth presses in anyway, heavy and cold. If I hadn't collapsed today, I might not have made it through the week. When the orderly arrives to wheel me to a room, I catch sight of my reflection in the stainless steel panel of the elevator. My skin is pale, lips nearly colorless, eyes ringed with shadows I don't remember having. I barely recognize myself. As the doors close, the doctor's words replay in my head, looping over and over. "Should have been treated weeks ago." And for the first time since this all began, I feel a deep, bone-deep certainty this isn't just about an illness anymore. The doctor's words fade into the steady beeping of the monitor behind me. His explaining the procedure, the medications, the follow-up visits, but my mind latches onto one unshakable truth. They could have helped me sooner. I glance at my parents. Dad's jaw is tight, his arms crossed like he's bracing for an attack. Mum's hands are folded in her lap, her nails pressing into her skin hard enough to leave little crescents. Neither of them meets my eyes. When the doctor leaves, the room feels colder. "So," Mum begins, her voice barely above a whisper, "they'll handle it." "They will," I say, my tone flat. Dad clears his throat. "We'll need to make sure the hospital has all the right documentation." He's looking past me, focusing on the legal paperwork the nurse left on the counter, not on me. Not once do they ask how I'm feeling. Not once do they say they are sorry. That's when I realize this is the end of something I've been clinging to my whole life, the hope that they'd ever truly see me. The nurse returns with a folder of instructions, but I barely hear her. My decision has already formed. When she leaves again, I take a slow breath. I'm going to stay at Taylor's for a while. Mom looks up sharply. "Taylor? Why?" "I need space." I choose my words carefully. To recover. To think. Dad frowns, but says nothing. I half expect them to protest, to insist on bringing me home, but instead, they exchange a look that says more than words could. "Fine. Go." Taylor picks me up the next morning. She stands in the doorway of my hospital room with a small smile and a paper coffee cup in hand. "You look better," she says softly, though we both know it's only compared to yesterday. I grab my bag, just a few clothes and the discharge papers, and follow her out. My parents trail behind silently, walking like strangers in a public place. At the hospital entrance, Mom offers a quick, awkward hug, her chin brushing my shoulder for less than a second. Dad shakes Taylor's hand and mutters, "Take care of her," like I'm a package being dropped off. And then they are gone. Taylor's apartment is warm in a way my family's house never was. There's music playing faintly from the kitchen, a candle burning on the coffee table. She helps me settle onto the couch, fussing with pillows until I'm comfortable. "You don't have to stay on the couch," she says. "You can have my room." I shake my head. "The couch is fine. It's perfect." She studies me for a moment, like she wants to ask a dozen questions but doesn't know where to start. Finally, she just says, "You're safe here." Those words hit harder than I expect. My throat tightens, and I have to look away. The first few days are quiet. Taylor leaves for work in the mornings, leaving me with her dog, Mofi, who follows me around like a shadow. I read. I rest. I try not to think too much. But at night, when the apartment is still, the memories creep in. The way my dad's voice sounded when he accused me of exaggerating, the way my mom avoided my eyes when I was in pain, the laughter from my brother when I collapsed. It's in those moments that I remind myself, I'm not going back. On the 5th day, Taylor comes home to find me sitting at the kitchen table with my discharge papers spread out in front of me. "You look like you're planning a heist," she jokes. "In a way, I am," I say, tapping the papers. A heist for my own life. She sits down, her expression softening. You mean, leaving them for good? I nod. It's not even about anger anymore. It's about not living in a place where my pain is a punchline. She reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. Then you're already doing it. A week later, I have a follow-up appointment. Taylor drives me. In the waiting room, I notice a mother holding her daughter's hand, brushing the hair from her face as I laugh over something on a phone screen. The sight is like a shard of glass in my chest. I look away quickly. When the nurse calls my name, I go in alone. The doctor is pleased with my progress and reminds me to take things slow. Your body's healing, but so is your mind, he says. Don't underestimate that part. I leave his office with a prescription in my bag and his words in my head. Back at Taylor's, I stand at the window, watching the late afternoon light spill across the street. The world feels different when you know you've chosen yourself over someone else's comfort. Taylor comes in from the kitchen. You thinking deep thoughts again? Something like that, I say. I was just realizing. I don't miss them. She tilts her head. That's not a bad thing. No, I say, turning back to the window. It's not bad at all. That night, I write in my journal, a habit I'd let die years ago because I was too afraid someone in my family would read it. I write about the hospital, about Taylor's kindness, about Murphy curling up at my feet like I was worth guarding. I write about the vow I made when I left. Never again will I let someone's disbelief silence me. The words feel solid, like bricks in a wall I'm building between who I was and who I'm becoming. The next morning, I wake up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Murphy's nails tapping across the floor. Taylor is already dressed for work. Hey, she says, setting a mug in front of me. Big day today. Every day's a big day, I say with a half smile. She grins. That's the spirit. As she leaves, I sip my coffee slowly, feeling the warmth spread through me. The road ahead is long, but for the first time, it's mine to walk, without their shadow hanging over every step. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I know one thing for certain. I am never going back to the person who stayed silent just to keep the peace. And that knowledge feels like freedom.